Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Whenever you find this, it's meant for you. Hello, my friends. Welcome back. Just wanted to take a deep breath before we get started. If you want to join me, just one big... Okay. I found some more synchronicities, and what I love most about these is the way they call me to express and share them when they decide to come up and repeat a few times in my life. And I have been reading this book about pendulums and reality transurfing and how we get to participate and choose what we spend our energy on and how we spend that energy, and how it can really influence and affect the world around us. And at the same time, I just signed up for it and have been taking this course on the art of channeling and how to be a clearer channel and hypnosis and things like that, kind of learning how to tap in, lean in, check in to source and understanding our intuition a little bit better. And in doing this, both the seminar and the book have mentioned going with the flow. And I feel as though that's a really common phrase that we all hear a lot. And sometimes it can almost be a little bit triggering, because when we get really caught up in things and we want to be productive and have results and progress and growth, it can be really hard to surrender to the flow, because stillness sometimes almost provokes that anxiety. And I find this in myself a lot, even being such a water-heavy person elementally. It can be really hard to sit back, listen, and surrender. But what I've learned through these two separate examples and experiences using the same analogy is really the importance of allowing and not being a blind passenger to it, but also not choosing to micromanage it and try and control everything about it. In the book I was reading, it talks about the fighter and the paper boat. So the fighter is someone that tries to control the situation regardless of what else is going on, and really goes against the natural rhythms of what's happening because they have their own agenda. And I understand this, in terms of the hamster wheel of life, when we're forced to produce results and forced to have deadlines and expectations of ourselves and all of these things. What the book mentions is how it works to our advantage to use the flow. It works to our advantage to use the natural energies and the rhythms and tap into the insight and the timing of everything. A lot of times we have our own agenda as to when we want things to come up and be released or just come to fruition, and it's not always up to us. There's other factors going around that really heavily influence our ability to be able to do this. It talks about how the fighter swims against the current, not always understanding how advantageous it is to use the flow, where the fighter's mind is gripped by these pendulums that kind of suck our energy in and call for more energy to be added to it. And the fighter is also very adamantly set on battle, adamantly going against the grain because of whatever check boxes they need to mark. And by using all of your energy and your might, sometimes that's all you're doing. You're not always necessarily getting progress. On the flip side, if you are just a paper boat floating through the ocean, you're almost at the mercy of the flows. You're just kind of hoping for things to pan out how you'd like them to, and not being an active participant co-creating this reality. We are all creators in our divine right, but part of that comes with co-creating, being one to work with what's going on around us, being a teammate to the energies surrounding us. And it's not to be putting so much pressure on what's going to happen is going to happen, or what I say is going to happen is what's going to happen. But finding that balance where we can dance with the rhythms of life and feel the currents and go with the flow of things. If you're not someone who chooses to go against the flow and ignore the eddies and the whirlpools and the riptides, but also you don't allow the currents to just take you wherever they choose to sweep you around like a paper boat, then you can intentionally use harmony in order to construct what you're looking to get from your situations. It can be helpful to think of things in terms of flow, I think, because things are always happening. Time flows, energy flows, moods flow, situations flow. Things have cycles and beginnings and endings and things of that nature. When we're talking about flow, it's understanding that currents can take you to some really choppy waters that might cause you to sit back and take a rest and kind of reflect and just ground yourself. Or they can take you to a really calm and steady lagoon that is allowing you to be able to make a little bit better moves and things. When we're able to use our sense of caution, use our sense of discernment, step up if we come to the edge of a waterfall, but taking advantage of when the flow feels right, the energy feels smooth, things feel aligned. And if you keep your goal in mind no matter what, and also practice understanding that when resistance is building, it's just simply not the right time. We don't hold all the answers. We don't always know when things are going to work out best, but intuitively we can sometimes get a sense and feel when things are not the right time, when we are hitting more bumps in the road and hiccups and feeling more resistance and stress towards things. You don't necessarily want to create from that space because what your energy goes into grows. So if you're contributing to this stressful situation and trying to fight through it, that's the energy involved in it, versus if you're moving through a motivated but harmonious and fluid situation, the harmony is what's going to manifest. Those are the little bits of wisdom from that book, and I found the analogy of the fighter and the paper boat to be really powerful because we can be the fighter. We can really try and force things to happen, but we can also be the paper boat sometimes where we're just sitting around waiting for a sign, waiting for the right time, the right opportunity for us to feel ready. But I think the most important part is paying attention to the flow. Being aware of our internal state is super important because I think we make our best judgments when we have that sense of stability and groundedness and confidence in ourselves. But it's also about learning when to shoot your shot and knowing that, okay, I might not feel the most ready, but I'm feeling motivated or I'm feeling more confident today. And even if I don't necessarily know what's going to happen, we know that we feel like we have the tools and the capabilities in this moment. And I bet you can relate to that too, I feel like a lot of life is choosing courage over fear and choosing action over waiting sometimes, and it can be really intimidating if you're looking for a green light and you're looking for a sign and an answer, but a lot of that just has to do with the internal energies that we're feeling. In the workshop I was in, he had a really great analogy for finding the flow, and he compared it to more of like the energy of a swimming pool, where if you're in the deep end and you're flapping your arms around and you're creating all of this extra energy and movement and choppiness to the water, that's what you're getting. You're contributing to this chaos, and it can be really hard to read the energy in these movements and in these moments and through these motions. But when you're able to float for a second and ground yourself, the water can be like your intuition, where you're able to feel the steady, simple currents that might be naturally flowing in the body of water, or from those little jets filtering through the pool water. And those little steady nudges are what's there at the base. That's like what your intuition is calling for you to do. And those little bits of movement, when you come back to stillness, can be really powerful. It's not about finding complete stillness in meditation all the time, and it's not about removing all of your thoughts, but it's about being able to listen to yourself. We have a lot of inner wisdom and guidance that is here waiting to be heard, and we're taught over time to be in charge and be in control and take action, and these are all really important pieces. Don't get me wrong. There's a time for everything, and action is so important. Action builds courage and confidence and skills and resilience and teaches us things. But when we're moving through the water, creating a wake without a big sense of direction or vision or groundedness, we're just contributing to how choppy things can be. But even if you just take a moment to practice slowing down, practice becoming more still, practice being able to listen to your guidance, your inner compass, your inner wisdom, you can feel those subtle energies and work with them. You can swim with the current instead of against the current. You can go with your flow instead of against your flow. And it takes a lot of practice, and I've been practicing this for a while now, and I didn't realize how rampant my mind can go and how much pressure I can put on myself and how much performance anxiety there can be to just create or become or resolve or move through things that it isn't always the right time for. But one of my favorite tools has been connecting to the breath. And especially when I walk outside, I focus on my breathing. And when I focus on my breathing, those random little thoughts don't necessarily come up and interject as much. The ones that are just filling the space, filling the void, creating more noise, keeping my mind moving. When you slow down and focus on your breath for a minute, you can become a little bit more present, and you can feel yourself kind of tapped in and tuned in and a little bit more aligned. And then when you're intentionally listening to these different cues, those are the little nudges that we're here to listen for. And sometimes those cues are saying, get up and go. And sometimes those cues are saying, hold on, take it slow. And being able to listen to our inner compass, our inner guidance, even slowing down enough to listen to ourselves, and you can get to that grounded sense of self that just feels more expansive and harmonious and your inner self. That's where a lot of magic can happen. And I'm learning to start to listen to those myself, and I'm learning that's where a lot of the different abilities and energies and inspirations have been coming from. As much as we want to be producing and providing and exchanging and doing all of these things to keep moving and growing and changing or whatever it is, there's a lot to receive and rest. Rest is receiving, and that's something I've been hearing a lot too. And by resting, we're able to tap in and tune in, and we're able to listen to what we're up to that might need to be released. We're listening to what we're up to that is on the right path. Once we release certain things and we rest in that, we can recharge a little bit and receive the next steps, the next pieces, whether it is the green light to keep moving along with what we're trying to do, the green light to make that decision that we're pondering on but might have been throwing a little bit too much pressure and stress and wondering if it's the right decision or the right time for us. And a lot of these questions, I've noticed that it's really easy to get wrapped up in and really easy to stay nervous about, kind of questioning and wondering and wishing and hoping. The second we pause, connect back to ourselves, and take a little listen, that voice inside of us, whether it speaks to you, it shows something to you, it drops some information to you. You know, we all have a different way of interpreting our own inner being, but it'll speak to you if you're willing to listen. And that's what I'm learning, is the more we practice listening, the louder that voice can be, the more aligned our actions will feel. They will feel less heavy, they will feel less resistance fueled, and they will feel more exciting. They will feel more fluid. They will feel like they can just fall into place instead of force into place. Going with the flow, not fighting through the currents, not being a boat at the disposal of the currents, you know, but being an active participant, you know, being an observer, being able to take stock on what you're feeling, what's going on, when things are getting a little choppy and we need to step back for a second, or when things are nice and calm and we're able to move forward through it. These are the tickets. I love you. I hope you're able to take a deep breath, connect to your breath, tap into your own flow, and take stock of what's going on around you, and keep making choices that feel right to you and aligned for you, because those things that feel safe and joyful and expansive, those are the times to make those choices. And the things that feel restrictive and dense and resistance filled, those aren't often the time to do things. If any of this resonates, let me know. Thank you so much for being here, and I hope you're able to continue to listen to yourself and find your flow and let it grow. Keep growing, keep being you. Have a great day.